Hello and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to learn how to use SmartSheet. Now, SmartSheet is like a combination of Google Sheets and Excel with project management. To start using SmartSheet, you can register for a free account that is free for 30 days. And this is how you record. You simply come to smartsheet.com and then you click on Try SmartSheet for free, either here on top or down here. You click on that. You'll be required to register for a 30-day free trial, instant access, no credit card required. So you register here, then phone number, job title, company size, you can choose all that. Some of them are optional. So you try SmartSheet for free. So you don't have to enter all the details, but the email is the compulsory one. Once you do that, you'll be prompted to check your inbox. To start using SmartSheet, click the confirmation link in the email. So I'm now in my inbox as prompted. As you can see, we have an email from SmartSheet. So I click on the link provided down here. And as you can see, the SmartSheet loads. And you need to do one thing. As that loads, you need to create a password, and your password must have 10 characters. Then you click on agree to the SmartSheet user agreement. Then you click on next. You might be prompted to select the images. You'll do that. It's part of the verification. Then you can select either an individual, education, company management, whatever it is. So let's click on education. So once the SmartSheet is open, this is the interface. You can see we have home, we have notifications. You can browse, and on browse you have what you can select. You can select the sheets, the workspaces. You can also check on recently opened. In this case, we don't have any. You can also click on favorites. You can click on work apps, and you can click on Solution Center. With the Solution Center, you are able to get a template. You can choose a template that you want. For instance, a template budget. You can open it and use it instead of starting from the blank. But we want to start from the blank so that you know how to create this from scratch. You come to the upper left corner and click on Create. You will have an option for grid, Gantt, project assistant, cards, task list, forms, and report and dashboard portal. So in this case, we want to create a project. So you create on project assistant. You can give it a name. Let's call it feeding program. Then you build it. You can decide the number of tasks, but you can skip so that it takes you straight to the data. It's now building your project. And so there is your project. So you can open it, click on open, or you double click on the project. Now, let me show you how the project interface and what you can get from SmartSheet. We have tabs on top here. We have tasks or task name. We have assigned to, we have start date, we have end date, health, status, notes, and any other that you may wish to add, just like the normal way we add in Excel. We have almost similar features again on top here, just like the ones that are there in Excel, where you can create a filter. And we have another view here for grid view, Gantt view, which we are also going to be using at the end. So we are going to be using the grid view for this purpose. So we are going to change the project settings. So you simply come to the first column here for the project. Then you click on the 3 arrows, and then you come to edit project settings. You click on that, and it opens the project settings. Here, you can change the dates. Once you click, you can start on the start date. And then you can change on the notes, end date. But the most important thing to edit here is the working days. So you click on edit, and then you can choose the working days. In this case, it is already auto-selected to 5 days, Monday to Friday. So we can change that and assume that maybe we have 4 days in a week for the purpose of this tutorial. So we remove Friday, for instance, and you can also remove any other day. And to just bring the day back, you simply click back on the checkbox. Another thing you can change about working days is the length of days in terms of hours. You can decide how many hours are there in your sheet per day. That means you can change this to 7 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours, and so on. Then after that, you can click on OK. You still click on OK here. We have to put the start date and the end date, and they have to be different. So there we have it. You click on OK. Next, I'm going to show you how you can add columns, and this is done the same way when you are adding columns on Excel. For instance, if I want to add a column here, I simply right-click and choose what I want to do. Insert column to the right. I can just add that, and maybe I want to add a column about gender. I click on that, enter the column name, I type gender, then under column type, I may decide what I need, be it a text or a number or a drop-down list. In this case, I can choose the values and say maybe male and female. Then I click on OK. As you can see now, we have a column under gender, and on the drop-down list, we have male and female. So that is how you add columns and the functions of the columns, like in this case, male or female. You can also delete columns the same way we delete columns in Excel. You simply right-click and then you select delete column. That's the same way you do it in Excel. You can also rename columns. So I'm going to rename this column and give it a name. Let me call it task name. Then I click on OK. I can also choose the values here, but let me just click on OK. As you can see, we already have a task name column added in our SmartSheet. So next, I'm going to show you how we work with parent and child relations. So I'm going to go to the task name and type a name, for instance, breakfast. Then I'll go to the next column and give an example of what could be used for breakfast. For instance, mangoes. So to add the parent-child relation, I will simply click on mangoes and come to the top and click on indent. I can also add others, such as other things that maybe could be used for breakfast. Can have tea. We can have sausage. And you see, they are now in indent. We can also create a child in another child instead of the parent. So this child, sausage, can become a parent if we type something else and make the sausage to be a parent also. For instance, let me say beef sausage. So I can now click on beef sausage and indent. Therefore, breakfast has the child mangoes and the child tea. The sausage has the child beef sausage. So that is how we can assign relationships. And we are going to see how those relationships will affect the values once we start working with values. I can even add more values. For instance, I can now go to lunch. I can now add lunch there. Then for lunch, I can add children for lunch. For instance, let me add rice. So to make the rice to be a child to lunch, I click on rice and click on indent. If now I type anything else, let's say stew, it automatically becomes a child to the lunch. And that is the relation between child and parent. Next, let's add the milestone. I have the parent and child. Then I click on Start Date. I click on Start Date column and choose a date and a duration. For instance, if I come and click on T under Start Date, I can click on the calendar and choose a date and a duration. I'll select 27th. Let me choose 28th. And automatically, it inserts itself in the others because of the relationship of child and parent. Remember, here, T is a child to breakfast, just like mangoes is also a child to breakfast. So you notice that once you click on a row that has a parent-child relation, you double click on that, it tells you this row has subtasks. This cell is a summary value and cannot be edited directly. Therefore, it means you cannot directly edit a parent without editing the child relation. Let's try with lunch. You notice that here for lunch is, if I click on the column for lunch, there, I don't get any calendar. But if I click on rice, which happens to be a child to lunch, the calendar is already here. And if I click on stew, the calendar is also there. This means that I can only affect the parent data by editing the child or the children data. So that is something very important to notice. Next, let us set up alerts. Click on the top left and click on automation. Then click on create a workflow and name it. Create a workflow and name it. So in this case, you will need to name your workflow and you can decide to create it from scratch, and there it is. So you name it. For instance, let's do this and call it reminder for diet. Then you can click on trigger and choose from the data. For instance, the reminder or the alerts will be sent or will be triggered. Once you click on this, you see when a date is reached, when rows are added or changed, when rows are changed, or when rows are added. You can choose any of these. So let's choose when rows are added. Then you can choose which field you are going to be affecting. In this case, you can even choose any field, and then you can run the workflow and say how the trigger goes. For instance, when triggered, hourly, daily, or weekly. For instance, let's assume we want a trigger every day, so we choose daily. And assign people. You can also add a condition to filter rows and assign people. You can select assign the alert by selecting the name or selecting a name of the person that you are going to assign to. You click here and then you can assign it, alert someone. You can choose who you want to alert. You can send to specific people, send to contact in a cell, or send to everyone shared on this sheet. So once you select on that, you come down here and select the email. In this case, you can type the email of the person that you want to email. So I'm going to email this to myself. So I simply type my email there. You can customize the message to what you want it to be. You can give it a subject, and then you can type whatever you want in your message. You can also decide what is included in the message before you save. You can include links to the sheet and all fields, or links to sheet and specific fields when you don't want to share all the fields, or only the message. You only send the message without any links. you can choose any of the three. So let's choose the first one where we have a link to the sheet and to all fields. Then you click on save, and so that is now saved. We go back to our SmartSheet, and next we want to work on completion of percentage, status, and cost. So you can create those columns if they are not there. The same way we have added new columns, you simply create a new column and then you add it. So let's assume we want to go to the status. You click on that and you can decide which status will be there. For instance, let's assume this one is not started, and then the next one in progress, and let's say the last one is complete. So that is simply how you can assign status. Another thing that you need to notice is that you can also drag or rearrange the columns. So I want to drag the status column to be possibly the first one here before gender. I simply drag and drop. Now let's go to assign to column. In this column, you can decide the person that you are going to assign the task to. For instance, I want to assign the task for breakfast to someone. You can add new, and then you type the name of the person and the email of that person. Then you click on OK. In this case, I'm going to assign this to myself, to my email. So that is how you assign. Let's say I want to assign the whole of breakfast to myself, but I want a specific person or a different person to deal with mangoes. So I simply come for mangoes. At the mangoes column, I click on the assigned to drop down menu, drop down arrow, then I click on add new, and then I'm supposed to type a different email from my email. That is the email of the person that I'm assigning to and their name. Then I'm supposed to click on OK. In this case, I'm just going to assign it to myself again because I don't want to add anyone to this task. As we have said, you can add gender here. We had already selected. So let me assume this was an issue to do with gender. I could assign this is male. I can assign this to be female, and so on and so forth. That is, if it was data that needed that. You only make these columns depending on what fits your SmartSheet. You can also add columns that deal with cost and assign the right currency. Let me add a column, insert a column to the right, and then I call that one cost. Then you can decide on which category that cost falls in, and in this case I'm going to say it's a text or a number. Then I click on OK. As you can see, we now have a column with cost. To make my work easy, I'm going to highlight the column, and up here where we have the three dots, I can change the currency and click on this currency format. As you can see, we have United States dollar, Argentina peso, Australia dollar, and so on. Let me assume I want to use United States dollar. I simply click on that. So once I come here and type, let me for instance type mangoes 50, tea 30, sausages 50, beef 10. Automatically it inserts for me the currency. To get the total here, you simply do it the same way in Excel. Next, we are going to see how you can chat or text someone on the SmartSheet. On the left side of every row, you can click and see the word comment and see the word comments. It opens on the right hand side and you can type your comment there. Let's say make it hot, and that is the comment that we have added. Then you can click on post. and that comment automatically gets posted to the person, especially who you had assigned. We can close the conversation so that we can get back to our SmartSheet. Next, we are going to see how we can share the whole project. You simply come to the right upper corner and click on share, and then you can add people. You simply add their email addresses, and then you can edit the permissions, either as admin, editor can share, editor cannot share, commenter, or viewer. You can also add a message. You can type a message down here on what you would want them to know. Once you do that, you click on share sheet. And if the person has an email, in this case we have not put any valid email address, but if a person has a valid email address, they will definitely receive a link that you have shared with them. Finally, you can change the view from calendar view, from grind view, and you can see the changes at the end here. Let me drag that so that you can see the difference. You see it gives us the date there, and you can change from Gantt view to card view so that you just get the items as they are in form of cards. You can see breakfast, mangoes, and tea as cards, and you can also change it to calendar view where you see it as a calendar, as you can see. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope it has been helpful. Like our video, subscribe, and share.